Hello students, as a part of digital education initiative of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, here is another lecture from the lecture series of on the subject VLSI technology. In today's lecture, we are going to see the diffusion evaluation techniques, and I am your faculty Sangeeta Mangesh from Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, JSS Academy of Technical Education, Noida. The contents of this lecture include the influencing parameters that hamper or that impact the overall diffusion process, that is electric field, oxide and nitride layer. Then we are going to study the evaluation techniques which define or which basically check out how your diffusion profile is. The instructional objectives or what I expect as a student you should be able to understand at the end of this lecture. You should be able to analyze the impact of electric field, oxide and nitride layer on the diffusion. You should be able to describe or perform the evaluation of the diffused layer, what you have obtained post diffusion. So, what is the impact? So, effect of electric field. As you all know, like in the previous lecture also, we have studied the impact or the diffusion process is basically the movement of dopant species within the bulk material. And this movement is because of the presence of two typical things, that is, one is known as vacancy and second is substitutional defects, or these species are going to substitute the host items, dislodge the host items, occupy their places, and thereby they will move within the bulk. Now, in case of these two movement or these two types of movements, what we have seen typical two basic movements, we have seen that these vacancies can be either neutral, or when you are adding the dopant, these vacancies can be positively charged. That means, the vacancy can be positively charged, negatively charged or neutral. So, this depending upon how the status of vacancy is, the charge mobility or the movement of dopant species will be defined, and thereby if your dopant species are active when they have already moved in, any electric field will further create mobility or will further enhance the mobility of these diffused species or these dopant species which are available within the bulk. So, the movement of impurities can be accelerated or can be retarded in the presence of electric field depending upon the direction of the electric field and the sign of the ionized impurities. So, the impurities which have moved in depending upon their charge and the applied electric field, the movement will be either accelerated or enhanced or it will be retarded. So, that means you have ability to control the mobility or movement of these species. Secondly, the net impurity concentration is not uniform. As the Fermi level varies with over the spatial, like if you have dopant species of p type or n type, the Fermi level will change, and according to that the extent of diffuse profile will be totally changing depending upon the way in which the species have been inserted. Suppose you are inserting p type species or you are inserting n type species, depending upon the movement of the Fermi level, the electric field will also have, or the impact of the electric field will depend accordingly. Secondly, when only one type of the dopants are present, the built-in field is always in a direction that accelerates the motion of impurities or movement of impurities within the bulk. The diffusion of most important impurities in silicon, like most of the important impurities like n type, p type, will be happening because of the point defects. We have seen already. Now, as these point defects are basically the vehicles or the source through which the diffusion is happening or movement of these dopant species is happening, the presence of or the concentration or effect of concentration of these point defects have direct impact on the diffusivity of impurities within the crystal. Such processes or such basically point defects will also get impacted because of the oxidation or because of the nitridation of or ion implantation, and therefore the dopant at high, okay, such processes basically are, you can enhance the diffusion by including, okay, you can enhance the movement by such processes, and you can attain high concentration of the dopant profile. So, whatever dopant profile you are going to have, that can be enhanced using these techniques. Now, how this happens? Now, why this happens? Now, please understand, whenever in silicon the self interstitials or vacancies contributed for they contribute for diffusion, and therefore, when you enhance the oxidation, there is deviation from, or there is what you call extra creation of these point defects, because oxidation will always happen by penetrating or by penetration of these oxide. Like you know already, oxidation whenever happens, the oxide layer grows beneath the silicon interface first. So, that means the movement of oxygen species will be further inside, forming the SiO2 layer, and the Si-Si interface is further going inside. Now, this particular movement or this particular formation of SiO2 layer, now initially we have seen in oxidation, SiO2 layer whenever is formed of 1 unit thickness, 0.4 unit thickness of silicon is consumed, and then 0.6 oxide layer will grow. That means, for 1 unit layer you have 0.44 D of silicon getting consumed, and this very property of silicon is basically resulting into, okay, there are some trapped charges or trapped impurities at the silicon dioxide interface, and these basically result into enhanced diffusivity. Now, why that happens, we will see further. Now, just see, in case of silicon, both interstitials or self interstitials and vacancies contribute to the diffusion, and therefore, so that the enhanced and retarded diffusion can be directly induced by deviation of the fraction of these vacancies or interstitials from their equilibrium values. Oxidation and nitridation enhanced or retarded diffusion for group 3 and group 5 elements is therefore very easily can be carried out or can be managed. You can very well control the diffusion by using oxidation layer or nitridation, silicon nitride layer, and you can get the desired profile. The oxidation of silicon has it has been long observed, it has been very well studied, and you can get the enhanced diffusivity in case of boron, or to a lesser, like you can boron, for example, you have in case of boron the what you call lattice defect, the mismatch is too high, and therefore, this is not very easily be, like you do not have much of the controllability in that case, but in case of phosphorus and arsenic you can get, okay, to a less extent in case of phosphorus and arsenic, and in case of boron you can manage that very well. It is also proven that the oxidation of silicon causes the nucleation and the oxide growth of interstitial type dislocations, especially along the 111 plane, and therefore, these planes or along these planes you will have something known as oxide induced or oxide induced stacking faults, or we call them as oxide stacking faults, OSF. These stacking faults are basically the mismatch of the crystal or misaligned crystals, and these misaligned crystal can result into interstitial type, okay, OSF, that is oxide induced faults, and these oxide induced faults during which are created during the oxidation process can result into, okay, that is because of the mismatch in the what you call the segregation coefficient, and mismatch of the crystal orientation can increase the interstitial or point defects or interstitials, and because of that you will find enhanced, okay, enhancing the interstitial component of the impurity and thereby enhanced diffusivity. So, there is change in the diffusivity at the silicon dioxide interface because of the mismatch in the crystal orientations and introduction of the oxide induced stacking faults. So, these stacking faults specially are very prone in 111 plane, and therefore, you have got enhanced diffusivity because of this. So, it is practically being studied, this is practically being studied, and thereby you will see that this is the dry oxidation ambient, whatever dry oxidation ambient, this particular diffusivity is enhanced, this is the inert ambient diffusivity in case of my boron. In case of my phosphorus, you will see the difference is, okay, this is the dry oxidation ambient diffusivity and this is inert ambient diffusivity. See the difference for the same temperature, for the same environmental other conditions being like same, you will find there is drastic change in the diffusivity if in the presence of dry oxygen. Thermally grown silicon nitride or silicon dioxide layer nitrided by the exposure of ammonia ambient, which is basically used as the alternative in case of dielectric, that is very well used in DRAM node capacitors. That also affects the diffusion in the underlying layer by injecting point defects on the surface. Direct nitridation by exposing the silicon surface to nitric acid ambient results in the injection of vacancies, while thermal nitridation, that is when you are elevating the temperature, the pre-grown silicon dioxide film causes interstitial injections. That means, there is creation of interstitial defects when you are creating thermally grown nitridation or silicon nitride layer, which is being grown by at elevated temperature. If you are exposing it to the silicon nitride like nitric acid also, there is increments in the interstitials, and these interstitials TIALs interstitials are basically point defects which will result into enhanced diffusivity. Direct nitridation also causes the enhanced diffusion in case of antimony, and there is a retardation in the diffusion level or diffusivity is getting retarded, reduced because of the in case of boron and phosphorus. That is again interstitials are getting like there are the favorable like non-favorable conditions being created because of the direct nitridation, and because of that you will have reduction in the diffusivity. Then comes, this is what is the practical shown example. Here you are having oxygen, see this is the diffuse layer of phosphorus, diffuse layer is shown over here. When you have phosphorus layer is exposed to my oxygen, that is oxidation happening from this particular opening, mask opening. Now, wherever there is oxygen, oxidation happening, you will find that the diffusivity is enhanced over here, just see. Similar is the case in case of nitridation. In case of nitridation of antimony, that is HNO3, that is NH3, that is nitric acid is being like this is being exposed to. So, nitridation whenever is carried out from this window, mask window, please see exactly below this nitridation window you are having enhanced diffusion. Here you are having enhanced diffusion. You will see enhanced diffusion. So, this is practically being seen, practically being observed, and it is well studied, thereby you know exactly how to increase or retard the diffusivity when you want to get the desired. Now, this is entirely being studied with an objective that you want a specific profile for desirable characteristics to be incorporated while device designing. Another, so once you are thorough with how to obtain the desired profile, let us check out how to go for measurement of these profiles what you have obtained. Now, entire engineering revolves around precision. Now, whenever you know how to, like you have studied the diffusion, you have modeled it through mathematics, you know how to get you have seen the performance of different materials within the silicon. Once that entire thing, how deviation is happening, that you are aware of. You know how to enhance using electric field, you know how to enhance using oxidation or nitridation, you know how to obtain the precise profile beneath the particular layer, you know already how to control the opening by considering the lateral diffusion, you know the oxide induced stacking faults, what is their impact, and how to use make use of oxidation, process of oxidation rather, to control the diffusion profile or to get the desired diffusion profile. So, once you are thorough with these things, like you have already acquainted with these things, we must know how to go for final measurement of these diffusion profiles what you have obtained within your silicon bulk. Now, what are the characteristics? How do we measure? What are the typical characteristics that define the performance? So, very first characteristics is the junction depth. Now, what is this junction depth? It is the depth measured from the surface of the plane of a p-n junction at which the concentration of the acceptor is equal to the concentration of the donor. So, wherever there is equilibrium concentration is obtained, that particular penetration region, that region till when the charge carriers have moved or impurities have moved in, that is going to define your junction depth. Now, another property is the sheet resistance. Now, what is something different than the normal? Now, please understand, it is also called as a sheet resistivity. Its name, or it is basically a measure of resistance of thin films that are normally uniform in thickness. Now, sheet resistance is basically non-varying parameter, or it is a parameter which is not varying throughout the area. We assume that it is okay over a uniform thickness. If the thickness is uniform, thickness is same, it is not going to change, it is going to be same, and with that assumption we carry out the sheet resistance measurement. Whenever we are scaling those areas, like we are taking small portion of the entire thin film, the property will not change, and that is why we consider, rather than direct resistivity, we carry out the sheet resistance, or we carry out sheet resistivity measurement, or measurement of sheet resistance, which will exactly give you the idea about those point contacts or small areas within which, especially when your miniaturization is happening with the devices, when the scaling of devices is happening, in the scale structures also the sheet resistance will be same, and therefore, we are measuring that particular parameter to define the electrical characteristics. And the third parameter is the dopant profile, which is basically giving you the area or the under the dopant, or like you can say area under the curve, or it is the area which is where these charge carriers have moved in, or the dopant species have moved in, thereby resulting or thereby changing or altering the properties of the bulk material. Okay. So, the electrical parameters will change depending upon the nature or depending upon the concentration at which these dopant species have moved in. Now, how do we measure them? So, very first parameter is the junction depth. Now, this junction depth measurement is carried out by staining. Now, what do you mean by staining? Now, staining is basically a method wherein you carry out etching within that particular bulk. Okay. You carry out etching within the bulk and you measure the angle basically lapped at 1 or 5 degree. Now, you from the bulk you take a small angular portion, or you etch away a small angular portion and you chemically stain that angular portion at an angle of 1 to 5 degree. You stain that particular etched area. So, that means एक छोटा सा खरोच आपने बनाया, उसके अंदर आपने ये स्टेनिंग मटेरियल डाला एंड स्टेनिंग मटेरियल डाल के आपने like you are going to study it. Now, what is that staining material? That staining material is 100 cc of HF, 49% concentration and few drops of HNO3. And what you will do is, the sample is subjected then to strong illumination for 1 or 2 minutes. Now, what will happen in that case? Whatever is that small etched away area is at an angle, that area when exposed to this stain or dye will show some particular properties. The area having p-type impurity will get stained darker than the n type impurity, and when it is okay, and that is because of the specific properties of the dopants or reaction of those dopant species with the material that is used for staining. As a result, there is a difference in the reflectivity, and the difference in the reflectivity is then converted, or it is going to give you the measurement of the junction depth. So, there will be difference, okay, reflectivity difference. The P region will be darker, N region will be comparatively lighter. Hence, there will be difference in the reflected pattern, or the light when it is falling on the darker surface will reflect less, what you call brighter surface will have, okay. So, that is how you will have reflection difference, and the difference between the reflection pattern will give you the junction depth. The location of the stained junction depends upon the p type concentration, what is the level of p type concentration, and sometimes the how the gradient is. So, the measurement also changes if the gradient is abrupt, or suppose your profile is having, okay, if your gradient whatever is the concentration gradient, depending upon that the junction profile measurements will have significant impact, or the staining pattern will also change. In general, stain boundary corresponds to the concentration level in the range of 10 raised to the power 17 atoms per centimeter cube. So, you can exactly measure up to this kind of measurements. Another method is you can be delineated, that is you can cut the portion. In previous method we have etched at an angle of 1 to 5 degree. Here what we have done, we have properly cut the portion with some tool. You have a cutting tool where you will create a groove inside and you will etch away that surface, and then you will carry out the measurement of this particular portion. We call this as A, and the small angular portion or the curvature here we call it as B. Now, this portion, see, from where it has cut to the center we call it as A, this is my A, and the small portion here, this I call it as B. Once your dimensions of A and B are known, you can calculate the junction depth, whatever is the junction depth, this is the junction depth, this is xj, we calculate as A square minus B square upon D or 2 R0. Now, what is this R0? R0 is nothing but the radius of that curvature tool with which the grinding or groove is being formed, or you can say this is also D, that is the diameter of this particular groove what you have formed. This groove diameter is going to give you, that is in the denominator, and you will calculate A square minus B square, that will give you the junction depth. Second property is the sheet resistance. Now, how do you measure the sheet resistance? I told you it is a typical property associated with thin films. We have also considered this sheet resistance when we were characterizing the wafers and when we were characterizing the epitaxial layer growth also, and during the thin film techniques also. So, these were basically this was a basic method which was giving you the typical property or resistivity property associated with the resistivity of the material. And since it is a scalable property, we are normally rather than simple resistivity, we calculate the sheet resistance. Now, a typical method which is being used is the 4-point probe method. On this wafer, you are going to place at equidistance 4 electrical probes. These 4 probes, you know the separation between them and you know the correction factor. Along with this, okay, you have a constant current being fed, okay, from these, okay, you will have constant current being allowed to flow through these 2 arms, and the voltage difference across these 2 probes will be measured. Now, this voltage, okay, this voltage will be measured. So, voltage and current ratio and the correction factor for every probe will give you the sheet resistance. So, RS is basically a sheet resistance, V is the measured voltage across the 2 probes passing through probes, when correction factor is the correction factor on account of the difference in the sample size, geometry and the probe positions, the positions of the probe and the sample size, the geometry of the sample. Based on that, the correction factor will change, the correction factor will have, okay, it has got standard values. So, placing those standard values for constant current flow, what was the voltage developed, based on that you will be able to calculate the sheet resistance. Then comes the spreading resistance profiling. Now, spreading resistance profiling is basically, in addition to sheet resistance, you carry out this property. It is the property which is giving you the basically it is position dependent property. So, depending upon the position you will get this, or this is basically the resistivity which is depending upon the, which is position dependent resistivity. And in this particular thing we will be measuring the spread resistance profiling. 2 probes are used instead of 4 probes, and the total spreading resistance will be given by RSR rho upon 2A. Now, 2A rho is the average resistivity near the probe points and A is the probe radius. If 2 probes are being stepped, simulation create intervals along A beveled edge, a depth profile of the electrical carrier concentration can also be acquired. You can measure if you are having beveled profile. If your profile is beveled, I will show you how. This is the way in which it is being shown, just see. Now, this is the beveled edge, this is the edge which is having a slope, and your probes are being placed at 2 different positions along this beveled edge. So, automatically say this is the beveled sample. So, across this beveled sample you are placing these 2 probes, you know the separation, you know the radius, you will apply the you will apply the current flowing through that, automatically you will measure the resistance. Once you measure voltage and current, you will measure the resistivity and the probe radius. The A is the radius of the probe, that but basically rho upon d, rho by d. V is the diameter, 2A is the nothing but the diameter of the probe. So, spreading resistance can be measured easily. This is again what is the spreading resistance, this is how it is being shown. This is basically 2A, that is the diameter of the probe, and this is basically the spreading resistance over the area will be calculated. So, this is very useful when you are going for beveled edges. Edges are not non-uniform surface. If it is, if you are what you call like you are creating different profiles in case of MOSFETs, or if you are you have something steps available onto your wafer. So, here when your wafer is having some areas where you are you are creating some profiles over here. So, under such cases also you can have the grooves being cut and you can measure that. Second is the mass ion spectrometry. You know already this has been studied. This mass ion spectrometry is quantitative analysis where the secondary ions are being provided, and this secondary ions basically if you have charged active species inside the bulk, they will automatically get diffracted and you can measure this. Its detection capacity is based on the high sensitivity of ions, making it ideal for trace detection and analysis over the semiconductor, LED, thin film material, and detection and analysis of different material. So, SIMS basically secondary ion mass spectrometry, we have seen this earlier also. This gives you very good result. Only thing is the drawback is you should have the sensitivity is slightly less, and the equipment is costly. It provides elemental atomic information, whereas electrical techniques such as spreading resistance profile and reveal the electrical carrier concentration. If dopant is 100% activated or ionized, the SIMS and SRP results should exactly agree, they theoretically agree. So, this particular method is very useful in predicting the impurity of diffusion profiles with excellent depth resolution, that is 1 to 20 nanometer, and high sensitivity per part million or per part billion, which is basically in the within the detection latitude. Oxygen or cesium ion beam of energy 1 to 20 kV is used, and that is on this is used to sputter on the sputter a sample. Basically, you are bombarding that ion beam onto the sample and you are collecting the what you call secondary ions from it. The equipment cost of the equipment is another, this one is only the drawback, and you have some sensitivity limit because you should have the concentration of at least 5 into 10 raised to the power 16 atoms per centimeter cube. So, with this we have seen the measurement, that is junction depth, spread resistance, sheet resistance, and we have seen how to take impact of this particular what you call diffusing species because of the electric field, oxidizing ambient as well as nitridation, that is how it enhances or retards the diffusion. So, once that thing is clear, we will go for the alternative technique which will give you further precise profiles of the dopants within the bulk, and that is known as ion implantation. So, God bless and good luck. Let us meet in the next class. Thank you.